Hello, everyone. Welcome to Progress Junior Golf. My name's Steve Jackson, and this is Ian Randell, and this is Ian Aaron Cox. Good evening, guys.
Oh, hello. Hi, Steve.
Evening, Steve.
Right, now this is the 8th edition of the Progress Junior Golf Show in 2025, and the 70th episode that we've ever done. So we're getting close to that 100 mark, but this is the first show for a couple of months, isn't it, Aaron? Because we've had a bit of a summer break, haven't we?
We have, yeah. Well, I went away in August, but before that, you and I were very busy in Ireland.
Yes, absolutely. We will come to that as well. And obviously during the summer holidays as well, lots of junior competitions to organise, to play in as a parent, Ian, as well. You know, I'm sure you have your son playing in some of these events as well, you see. So lots to cover and lots been happening over the summer months. Right, now, but this show is we're going to be talking about finding the next Rory, finding the next Tiger, finding the next Charley. Now, I've got to admit, I've been a bit mischievous there with the title, but actually deliberately so, because we've all heard the saying, haven't we? He or she is the next big thing, not just in golf, but in all sports as well. So, you know, we've all heard of, you know, the next Lewis Hamilton, the next Andy Murray, the next Jimmy Anderson, next Johnny Wilkinson, the next Jessica Ennis, you know, the list goes on. And not just in this country, of course, you know, the next Lionel Messi, the next Usain Bolt, the next Michael Jordan, the next Serena Williams. So obviously this show is we're not going to find the next Rory or the next Tiger or the next Charley, but well, mainly because whoever we do find, if we do find someone, they're going to probably have a different name, you see. But we're going to look at talent spotting. And what do you do if you do come across a very talented junior golfer? How do you develop that talent? You know, we look at it from a coaching perspective, players' perspective, parents' perspective, golf club, county, media. So we'll try and cover it from all different angles as well. Obviously, we've got Ian on the show today with his expertise. So just I can give you the what you do as a job, Ian. So and then you can explain a little bit more about it. Then, so you're the chief executive at the Confederation of Professional Golf. You're a board trustee of the Ryder Cup European Development Trust, and more importantly, you're a parent of a junior golfer. So just expand a little bit on what that means.
Yeah, well, numerous roles really, Steve, and I've been very fortunate that the game of golf has been good to me. I've played as an enthusiastic amateur throughout my life, but my last 30 years working in the profession, and that's involved being a tournament director. I ran the Ladies European Tour for a while, which was fantastic. And for the last 18 years or so, I've been running Confederation of Professional Golf, which was previously known as PGA of Europe. So we work with about 40 national PGAs, sharing knowledge, coaching knowledge being one of them, setting some standards, raising standards in many ways. And when you look at, you know, we'll talk about Ryder Cup later, undoubtedly. And when you talk about, look at Ryder Cup and when it became a European team back in, it was 10 Brits and 2 Spaniards. And now we've got Norwegians, Austrians, players from right across the continent playing in both Ryder Cups and Solheim Cups. And, you know, I think that's testament to the sharing that goes on across the countries in Europe. So, a lot of that in my work links to developing associations and developing the workforce for the game. Then we're very privileged that we're a shareholder in Ryder Cup Europe. I sit on the main Ryder Cup Europe board. My main responsibility is to effectively manage a charity, invest back in the game, and not only to unearth the next Tiger, Rory, or Charley, but a lot of it's, you know, purely grassroots or working with the disabled and working right across the game just to get more people playing more golf and enjoying it across the continent. So lots of variety in the role. And as you say, Steve, I've also got an enthusiastic 10-year-old now who's played in 1 or 2 of your events, and it's starting to show signs of progress. He recently was successful in a Staffordshire County Championship, but I'm very realistic that this could be a frustrating game, and I just want him to have fun along the way. Yeah.
Right now, obviously, Aaron's been on the show as the co-host for throughout this year. He's been on as a guest briefly, but we might have some people who are joining the show for the first time. So, Aaron, just explain your background and, in particular, what your role is within coaching juniors.
So I've been a golf pro now for nearly 20 years now. I'm Australian, so I spent all my growing up life in Australia. Moved across here to England about nearly 8 years ago now. I'm based up here in the northeast, Darlington, and pretty much had a job that kind of was kind of just thrown into my lap, really, that came upon me, was to build a junior section. The club here at Blackwell Grange didn't really have any. So I kind of built a junior academy up from nothing, 2 or 3 junior members and 6-7 kids in junior classes. And now fast forward now, coming up to 6.5 years now. Nearly 140 junior members, and I teach 100 juniors a week in classes, plus all my elite juniors. So pretty much, close to about 130 juniors a week I'm teaching, plus building the junior section. I built a 6-hole kids course on the club here, so I play junior comps all season. I have my own Ryder Cup myself. I have the Europe versus USA Ryder Cup every year, and I use my order of merit for my comps for the top 24 kids to qualify for the following year's Ryder Cup, and I get 2 captains pick their own teams, and pretty much now it's just become literally way of life of what I do and how I do it. It's just all about the juniors and giving kids the opportunity, and working with Steve this year. I created my own junior tour, which obviously, and Steve's been a massive help in. So my ACE junior tour got off the ground this year. I had 5-6 events, and now in the process of creating next year's schedule and getting more kids in the Durham County up to Northumberland, around Newcastle, around down to Leeds, just up in the northeast kind of area. Give them more opportunities to play competition golf, but also then to elevate themselves to springboard them and stepping stones onto your Ping Junior Tours, your Robert Rock Tours, giving them access to the Champion of Champions, which is over in Ireland, and just my life revolves around kids, so it's what I do. It's what I love doing.
Brilliant. And you, right. Not many move from Australia to Darlington. Most go the other way.
No, Ian. No, when I kind of arrived into the country at border, and then the border guy said, "You here on a holiday?" I was like, "No, I'm moving here." He says, "Why?" But to be honest, it's been probably one of the best things I ever did in my life, was do a full reset when I was 32, when I moved over here. Now I'm about to hit 40, but it's kind of now what I've got, what I've created here at Blackwell. I'm trying to now start to, and Ian, you made really good points before about sharing. And sharing information about coaching and all that stuff, and ideals and all that stuff. And I find it very difficult, especially being here up in the northeast, with now such a very successful junior academy with 6 to 10 to 12 to 15 golf clubs in areas around me, around County Durham, that don't have junior sections, which I've tried to lend a hand and go, "Hey guys, I see you guys have got not many juniors are at your golf club. Do you need a hand? Do you want a hand? Do you want some information of what I've done, which now I've created a massive junior academy? Do you guys want a hand so I can give you some my tips of what I've done?" And I just get a blank, "No, we're fine. We're great. Thank you. Go away. I don't really need your help." So it's kind of nice to hear Ian with his work with the confederations of the PGAs, because, to be honest, I would actually love to actually speak to other PGA pros about what they do, how they do it, what I do. And they might go, "Oh, I haven't tried that." And then they might say something and I might go, "Oh, hang on, I haven't done that." But to be brutally honest with you, I can't find any golf pro that's actually willing to sit down with me and talk about making.
I might be able to help you with that. Let's take that offline and we'll try and take that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, now, the one thing you mentioned there, Aaron, there about other clubs and they feel as if they're doing a good job. They feel as if they're doing. Now, I'm guessing that their idea is the same. It's the same with yourself. It would be the same with the clubs that Ian's worked with. It's the fact that they want to promote junior golf. They want to get more juniors into the game, and eventually they want to get better players because they want to strengthen their own club. They want to strengthen their own county. They want to strengthen the whole country. So obviously the podcast is about trying to work out how you do that and how you develop someone who might be, will be a beginner, get them to the next stage to be someone who's, a novice, to an average player, to a very good player, and then go on to become a very, very good player. Now, I know Aaron might be a little bit aware of this, Ian, perhaps not, but I'll give you a little bit about my background. Me, I worked as a sports journalist now for 30 odd years, and I was moved to Kettering in the year 2003, I think it was, and within 12 months I met a 8-year-old golfer, and I wrote an article for my local newspaper, and this was the article I wrote. And you might recognize that young golfer there in the middle of there, and that is a golfer by the name of Charley Hull. And I was very fortunate.
Stop it.
And the article there on the right hand side is an article I wrote about Charley Hull when she was 8 years old.
Sliding doors.
That's it. And and I had photos of her when she was a young kid. Some of these. That's one of my favourite photos actually, because that's got Charley in the middle there, Rebecca
and
G,
McLaren,
and Megan McLaren as well.
Yeah.
So I had the very fortunate in the sense that at a young age I saw some of these players coming through. Now at the time, and you'll get asked this, and people will say, did you know that Charley was going to become what she became and what she is now? Top 10 in the world. One of the biggest name probably in women's golf certainly in this country and probably across Europe as well. And my honest reaction is, no, you didn't know, but it was exciting going along with the ride, and that's where I was fortunate. I saw it. I played this very, very small role in her development. At the age of 10, I got her invited to a media event, a media competition down in Kent, invited along, and she played with the editor of one of the major golf magazines. And on the first hole, she was just off the green, chipped in for a birdie. And this editor of the golf magazine thought, this kid's pretty good, kind of thing. And on the next hole, she's off the green, and he turns to someone next to him and goes, "If she holds this, I'll eat my hat." Well, of course, you know what happened next. So I had the photo of him eating his hat. And that person, I think it was Golf World magazine off the top of my head, but that person wrote an article, 2-page article, "Is this the best 10-year-old golfer in the world?"
Wow. So
I was the one who introduced her to that competition. She did her thing. She did what she was good at that age, and that was to express herself and go out there and play golf. Now, I got lucky because I got that at a very young age. And now since then, I've obviously gone into running junior events like you have as well, Aaron. And I know Ian agrees with me that I'm more interested in getting more players playing the game of golf. And if I happen to develop someone who is very, very good, or someone who comes along is very, very good, then that's a nice little bonus. But that is this podcast today. I want to find out how you do that then. So let's look at them. I'll start with you now and then. How do you start with the coaching perspective then? Because and I'll be pointing on this. Have you ever developed someone who has gone on to become a very, very good player?
So I'm like you, Steve. At that back when I took my very first head pro role back in 2016, I met this 8-year-old girl who was just getting back. Her parents there, she was just getting the bug to get back into the game. The old head pro that was there kind of like didn't really make much anything of it, and she lost interest. Anyway, I got it back in. I spent 18 months with her before I then moved on to my next job. And now all that time again, all that time's gone now. Sorry, this was back in 2011. Sorry, my apologies. So 14 years later, she's now got status on the LET Axis tour, and her name's Justice Bosio. She's just starting now. She's 7th or 8th on the Order of Merit in her rookie season. So I had a very small snippet. Obviously, I'm not going to take any. I did it all because I didn't, but I got it back into the game. But going to my point right now of what can you see and what can you find? Look, I've got about 5 kids, probably 6 now, that there's four that I've got that I think can go all the way. One 16-year-old's he plays off plus 0.5. 4 years ago, his handicap was 45. I've got a 12-year-old girl who I've been teaching for 2 years. She's on 6.8. I've got another 13-year-old girl. Another 12-year-old girl who's off 9.1. And then I've got a 13-year-old girl of 9.8. And then I've got a 14-year-old boy who's off 2.7. So at the moment, I've got 6 kids that I'm looking at now going, right, I've got 18 months, 2 years with one of them. I've got 4 years with another one. And I've got roughly about 5 years with the other 3. How do I keep them going on the trajectory that they're going? Because I've had the 2 of the girls have dropped nearly 13 shots this season alone to come down to single figures. So they've gone from like 20s now down to 9s. And my 2 boys have gone from 7 to now 2.7 and 4 down to nearly now +1 now. So they're pushing those boundaries. And I think it's perseverance. From the coaching point of view, I've put blood, sweat, and tears into those 6 kids over the last 3 years, and done everything in my power to document their swings visually, mentally. I've got involved with fitness, mental performance. So I've got these kids being seen by PTs, by physiotherapists, by mental performance coaches to build all those parts of the games that I can't. But then from a teaching and technique point of view, I've structured their swing such a high level that their fault points are very minimal. So when they are playing poor golf, they're only just not getting over they're playing over their handicap by about 2, 3, 4 shots. They're not shooting mid 80s and 90s, playing off scratch or playing off that low handicap. So I've got them to now learn to accept bad shots are going to happen. It's how they come back from that, but how also mentally strong they can stay when they're not hitting their shots correctly, how to mentally stay in that path and stay in that avenue, that their swing, they've got to try and mold their swing around the day that they're playing, not try and change it. And I think it's working with them mentally, which has helped, I think, them tremendously as well. I get every kid, all one of my elite kids, to every round of golf, they're writing down their stats, and they're bringing me those stats after every round, and they're showing me those stats. So I'm writing down notes after every round of golf saying, look, I'm hitting these fairways, I'm hitting these greens, I'm making these up and downs, I'm not making these up and downs, and these how many putts I'm making. So I'm teaching these young kids, and they are, some of them, like the 3 girls, 2 12-year-olds and a 13-year-old, and then I've got a 14-year-old boy. Those kids, they're extremely young. Now, some parents and some PJ pros and some people might say, hey, are you going over the top a little bit too much, a bit OTT? But when you've got the kids that are actually coming to me going, hey, I need to get this better, and they're 12, then am I going over the top when they're coming to me?
Okay, let's bring it in straight away then, because obviously you've had very similar conversations with different pros that Aaron, the same points that Aaron's just raised there. Is what does he do? How does he sometimes take a step back, sometimes take a step forward?
Yeah, well, I think firstly, I think Aaron's dead right there. I think it's inherent in them as to whether they want to progress and how much they enjoy the hard graft that, standing on a range, hitting ball after ball, that there's very, very few top pros out there who don't enjoy doing that. So firstly, they've got to enjoy doing it in the first place. And I think if you were forcing that kind of discipline onto them, Aaron, then you'd be doing something wrong. But it's, as you said, it's the other way around. They want to do it. They want to learn, and it's your job to nurture that in the best way. Funnily enough, hearing your Charley Hull story, because my coach, who's had far less success with me, Lee Scarborough, although he took me down a few shots, to be fair to him. A guy called Lee Scarborough was Charlie's coach. You may know Lee. because he's your
he was the short game coach for Charley. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, so he coached Charley, and he also coached Ian Poulter at a different stage. So he had Charley when Charley was young, and then Charley, when she went on tour, had stuck with Lee for a year or two and then kind of moved on. Whereas when Lee got Ian, he was a 4 handicapper who was turning pro and worked as his assistant in the shop. But his confidence in himself and his belief in himself, I think at the time it was the Hippo Tour. He said, "I'm going to go and win 4 Hippo Tour events this year," and he ended up winning 6 or something. I mean, I think Ian would admit there's far better ball strikers than Ian in the game, but
he wanted to prove people wrong.
And the strength of his mentality obviously is exceptional. So I think, from my perspective, what I see, the game's changed and coaching's changed in that, one, it's a power game now, as you know, Aaron. So the days when we grew up and it was swing at 80% and find the sweet spot, that's kind of gone out the window. It's hit it hard. There's a lot more specialization in coaching. Exactly what you're doing is you're in the middle of a team, and then you've got to help them, put them in the right direction, and then you've got to also know what you can do with them and when you have to pass it to someone else to do it. But for me, it has to be inherent in them to really want to pursue it, and they've got to love the game. They've got to just love being out there and playing.
When you've seen juniors, Aaron, at what age? Let's go. What's the youngest player you've ever seen? You've thought there's something there.
Look, well, I mean, I've seen a few 5-year-olds that you kind of look at their kind of how they hold it, but then how they stand to it. There's a one big, as I say to parents when I get parents for the first time and bring their kids to classes and other stuff, and I just say to them, I said, you can tell when a kid's got a golf swing that can be nurtured when you can see them when they first swing the club and their right arm bends. If their right arm folds like a waiter at the top, then you go, right, there's a golf swing. So there's a golf swing there that can be nurtured and created. If you see a kid that swings the club back and their right arm is absolutely dead straight like a piece of concrete, then you know, right, I've got to work at this. There's not really a golf swing there, but I'm going to try and give them a game of golf that they can play and enjoy. But then you're trying to, over time, you're trying to work out whether this is the parent's dream or it's the kid's dream at such a young age. But I try and keep it as fun as possible. I'm not a massive fan of pushing too early, because I've seen firsthand with kids that I grew up playing golf with when I was an 8, 9, 10, 11 years of age, that got to 15, burnt out because their parents pushed them and their coaches pushed them and their parents wanted them to do this, that, and this and that. And they got them all the best gear, spent all the money under the sun under them. And by the time they got to 18, their golf clubs were on eBay, and they had now they're laborers and don't play golf, but they play golf every so often with the lads with a drink.
Yeah.
Whereas me, 30, I started golf when I was 2. I turned 40 in November, and I've been a golf pro 20 years. I'm like literally another version of Ian Poulter. I was never really good enough to go straight to tour school. I went to tour school, got my tour card for a year in Australia. Found out I was nowhere near good enough. But now my calling, and I've made myself in the ways of Ian Poulter headstrong, is that when I turn 50, I'm going to be an absolute massive force on the Champions Tour. That's me.
Let me just show you a photo of a 2-year-old golfer. Anyone recognise him?
Yeah.
Now,
TW.
And obviously that's someone who has gone on to become, arguably the greatest golfer that we've ever seen, kind of thing. But
that was his dad's vision, though. That was the dad's vision.
And that's where you made the point about it. Was it the dad's vision, or was it the parents' vision, or was it the juniors' vision?
He bought into his dad's vision of what golf was going to be for him in the future.
Yeah, let me show you another couple of photos. Slightly older, but someone who you might recognise as well.
The washing machine.
And the washing machine, what did you say?
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. There you go. You see.
The thing is, though, that's another story because Rory wanted it.
Yeah.
I think Rory really, really wanted it. And you could see from a very young age. And then you look at all the clips and all the videos of him playing junior golf and other stuff. He was on the range. He was pulling his dad and his mum to the driving range in Northern Ireland at Hollywood to the range in rain, hail, snow, just to hit golf balls. He wanted it deep down. And now what's he doing for the game of golf?
We are going to obviously talk about your role within all the organisations you work with, Ian. But I just want to specifically make the point here about the fact that you're a parent. You've got a 10-year-old golfer. Presumably, he's known for many years that you work in the golf industry. So, at what point did he come to you and go, or was it the way around, where you said to him, "Would you fancy playing golf today?" Which came first, and how did that happen?
Well, it's funny. I mean, he's my third. I've got 2 girls older, and took them to golf, and I would say they can still swing a golf club pretty well. But the junior organizer at the time was an ex-Olympic hockey player. They went to play field hockey, and they loved field hockey. So I lost them to golf. I lost them from golf, and they come back, but they can come out and play and still get it round whenever they want to. With my son Jonty, it was almost, I was the opposite of a pushy dad, because he's seen it all. He's had a club in his hand. It's been, such a big part of my life. He's had a club in his hand since he's 2. Well, actually, I have a photo of him because we work closely with Ping, and I'm very good friends with the Solheim family from my days at the Ladies European Tour. I've got a photo of him because they sent him a putter with his name, his date of birth, and his weight, and it's the same length as him. And I've got him lying down in a Ryder Cup baby suit next to his Ping putter. So he had it from day one, but I've almost been the opposite of a pushy dad, because, as I said before, I know how frustrating the game can be, and I know that really the Tigers and Rory's are obviously just complete exceptions to any rule.
Yeah.
They're 1 in a million, or 1 in several million. And I've always wanted him to join in and play, but I'm a big believer that you want them to play multi-sports for quite a long time. He plays
absolutely.
He's played rugby, he's played cricket, etc. Yep. I wish he'd still play some cricket. He doesn't want to. He wants to play golf in the summer, and he wants to play football in the football lasts most of the year these days. But it's been that. It probably changed, Steve, to answer your question. It probably changed at about the age of 7 or 8, where we went from just coming up the golf club, and it was a social thing, and it's Wednesday night, and he's mixing with all the other kids, and he could be doing any sport, to probably about 7 or 8 actually starting to ask questions and starting to work on his swing, and starting to then go, "Dad, can we go out for a few holes?" So the girls never did that, so I never pushed them to do that. So yeah, he had to want to do it.
And at what point did he have his first lessons, or were you the one who did the lessons?
Well, I just helped out in the junior section once Mandy, our previous junior organizer left. So he was getting group lessons at that point. His only kind of one-to-one lessons it was more when I went. So I went to see Lee it's an hour and a half for me to see Lee, and he's a friend as much as a golf coach to me. And I think golf coaches should be that. They're a mentor in many ways as well. So he came along with me, and then he started to have the odd lesson. But as I say, I've not really pushed that too hard with him now. And it's more, he's still far more involved in group lessons than he is in one-to-ones at this stage.
And from your point of view, Aaron, that 7-year-old comes to you. And you know the background with the parent. You know there's someone with a golfing background. What do you do? Where do you take them? And if you see something there, what have you done, and what would you do?
I try and learn their personality, because I'm like a big kid. So literally I act like a goofy kid on the range when I'm teaching these kids as well. So I kind of have fun with them as well. There's times to get serious, but a majority of the time I'm trying to create a fun kind of atmosphere for kids to learn, but learn the right way, but learn the fun way. So, like, obviously me being Aussie, so it's just in my Aussie accent, it's just kind of, they will always ask me, what'd you say? What was that? So but in the ways of, I learn about them and what they want first. Then I start learning about the parent, because obviously if I'm learning more about the parent, then I get an idea of their background, of where they've come from. So it's and Ian, well, everything that you were just saying about your son, like I've got a 3-year-old son now, and I'm like sitting back, I'm like trying to have my hands under my bum, like sit on my chair, and just, I don't want to push. But he's always saying, can we go to mini golf? Can we go to daddy's work? Can we go to dad's work? Can we go to the putting green? Can we go to mini golf? And it's like, I want to be really excited, but at the same time, I don't want to be overexcited.
Yeah.
But going back to your point, Steve, I try and create, it doesn't matter if they've got a golfing background, or their parents are non-golfing, giving them a fun atmosphere for them to learn what they want to learn and what they want to take out of each class. I think that's important, because every kid's going to be different. They'll learn at different speeds. I'll have some kids of the same age and be so separated with abilities, because one kid will take that information like a sponge, but then go bring their dad or mum to the range 3 times for the following week's class. Whereas the other kid will take that information in, and then I'll see them the next week of class. Then all of a sudden you do that over 6-7 months or over a season. You have very, very different then abilities. You got one kid who's worked on it over and over and over again. And then you got the kid who just wants to do it for fun. So then you see that, and then that's how you really start then learning about how to attack learning processes with each kid. And then that's how you talk to parents about, okay, well, they want to do this. Okay. Then they're going to go, right. Then I can start saying, right, well, can you do practice? Yes. Okay, great. Okay. What do you want to do? Right. Okay. Let's do this, this, and this. Yeah, no problems. Okay. Let's do it. And the parents will be on board.
Right. Sorry, Steve, what I would say as well is the other thing that one thing that really got my son hooked was gamifying it quickly. So getting them off a range. And the Golf Sixes League, I can't say enough about Golf Sixes League. We're very active in rolling that out internationally now. But before they play 18-hole stroke play, and even whilst they're playing 18-hole stroke play, what really got him hooked, I think, was Golf Sixes League, because it was
Texas Scramble,
a social event. It wasn't about competition particularly. And they'd go and play on a Sunday against other clubs, and he absolutely loved that. And I think that was a real factor in getting him really interested.
Good point, Ian, because I've got 3 teams. I've got 3 teams over 2 leagues up here in the Northeast, and I think it's been a great stepping stone for my little comps that I have on my kids course. And it's a very good point you say that, because it's getting the kids off the range quickly. Well, not quickly, but getting them off the range, not getting bored.
Yeah.
And I suppose I'm very lucky, because I had a spare fairway, which then I turned into a 6-hole course, 50 to 70 yard holes. And I went out, marked it up, lasered it, marked it up, got the club to start then cutting it. And now it's been an integral part of my teaching academy. Through summer, I'm out there every week, every class, getting them off the range and getting them on the course, learning about distance control, etiquette, speed of play, how to hit this shot, how to hit that shot, in real life circumstances, in real life on the course, that you can see a result.
Yeah.
And then from that, yes, with the Golf Sixes in, that next stepping stone allows the kids to go from little comps of their own at the course. Then I get them to go, I pick my squads off my comps on my kids course, which then gives them a straight in roll to your main course and playing like the blue tee on a shortened course on your main course, which then they can go from blues back to reds, back to yellows, developing them, nurturing. But then what are you doing from a parent's point of view, Ian? You're a golfer. You're out on the course with your son going, right, this is how you fix a divot. This is how you fix a pitch mark. This is how you make a bunker. This is the speed of play. So when walk in between shots. This is what you got to do, son.
Yeah,
This
and
position the bag.
Yeah, and introduce yourself on the first tee and take your hat off. And
Yeah,
just,
absolutely.
You know, some of the life skills that the golf is obviously so unique at spreading, and etiquette and treating everybody with respect. I think it's a fantastic initiative.
Yeah. Right. Let's talk a little bit about competitions then, because we're talking about trying to develop the better players, to try and develop, if we can try and find the next Rory, the next Tiger, the next Charley, whatever it is. What role does competitions play within that then? And at what point do you start telling them, you know, you mentioned earlier about playing in the Ping Tour or something like that. At what point do you say, actually, my events that I'm running aren't good enough, you're not developing enough with mine? What point do you start having to push them into more different types of competitions?
It's at the end of the day, it's not about me pushing them. It's
advising them.
Yeah, I advise. Look, but by the time the kids get to a point where, say, they're bypassing obviously the club comps, they're obviously handicap golfers. They're getting their handicaps down. They're going to start getting probably access to being looked at county squads, but also, I think it's a great thing if there's more opportunities for kids to play competitions. So the junior opens, they're all around the country, you know, and kids being able to say, go away on holidays and, you know, I'll stop in for an open on the way there, stop on the way open, the way back. I always tell my kids to get out and play as many other golf clubs in competition situations as possible. Don't just stick here at Blackwell. And that's, I think, being a big philosophy, but also this is where potentially an argument could take place. And it's kind of my level and almost my stipulation is that I don't support any of my juniors doing general play cards because it's not a true indication of handicap. Now, there could be a massive argument, and there probably is coming from comments. I'm probably going to open myself up here, unfortunately. But this is my position and my standpoint is that I've kind of made it, look, if you want to go play general play, look, go for it. I can't stop you. But I don't believe that the general play system is going to give you a actual 100% reputation of what your handicap is, which is why your point, Steve, of why competition is so important, because under the pump, you need to know whether your swing's going to hold up, whether you can mentally hold up under the pressure of a shot. So I tell my kids, go find any comp that they can play.
Okay, I'll ask you another question about competitions then. Yep. And what do you take the most notice of? Do you take the most notice of the effort or how they get on in the competition, or the actual results?
The effort. It's how they
and what they learn.
It's what they put in and what they pull out of that game. I always ask for an analysis on the game, not the score, on the game, and how they were physically, how they were thinking, during, but then after, and do an analysis of what can I do better next time. You can look at a result like I played golf yesterday. I shot 4 under, and on paper, 4 under, you go, oh, that's a good score, Aaron. Yeah, I played really poor golf. Now, what do I take out of that? Well, I hit 4 fairways. I hit 10 greens. But then what do I take positive out of it? I had 6 out of 8 up and downs, and I had 24 putts. So you've got to break your game down. That's how you can kind of get information. That's how I get my information out of my kids, is that you don't just look. I just don't want you to tell me your score. I want you to tell me what you did and how you did it, and then what you need to get better at.
And in your experience, Ian, of the professionals who you've worked with, is that the type of attitude which runs throughout junior coaching, as far as you can see?
Yeah, I think, fundamentally it does. I think taking the point of competitions as well here, Steve, what I think is you've got to be able to compete. You've got to have the opportunity to compete at the right level and be pushed. Because this morning I've flown back from Slovakia, maybe looking a little weary because I was an early start. But I was at the Slovak Open yesterday, which is the biggest event in Slovakia. You know, they're not renowned for being a golfing country. And, you know, you look at, and I was talking to the Czech PGA yesterday who came to see me there. And, you know, they're doing pretty well in the ladies' game with producing some good Czech players, less so in the men's game. And they're questioning, right, where do we find that great Czech player who's going to be on tour, etc. You know, and I think we're lucky over here. Any of our players are going to get exposed to really, really good players really quickly. And there's competitions where they're not going to be a big fish in a small pond for very long, because they go to the next level and there's always someone better than them that they've got to strive to catch up with. And I think having that competition that can just drag them along and expose them to better players is essential.
Playing with players, and whether it's professional or juniors, you know, I played 6 years of junior golf with an Aussie kid at that time. He's 2 years younger than me. His name was Jason Day.
No, I never heard of him.
Good chipper.
But yeah, but when he first came onto the scene, yeah, I was beating him, I was winning. But then as soon as he got a year older, he got to 12, and I was 14. He just put his foot down, and then no one beat him for the next 6 years. And then he went on to be part world number one, won a major, and now on tour. So you kind of. I think
okay. Just on that point, just on that point there, Aaron. At the age of 12, he went like that.
Yeah,
and you didn't.
And I didn't.
To an extent, he did.
Yeah. Let's face it, Jason Day has never won England Golf Coach of the Year. So yeah. But what was it? What did he do? What you know? If you're now looking at it from a coaching point of view, and you're going, okay, well, what can I learn from what Jason did and I didn't do?
So Jason Day had Cole Swatton on. I went to a golf school in Brisbane, and so did Jason. So that's why I was playing against him and playing junior golf. But he had Cole Swatton on the bag as his coach. So Cole saw something in him. Remortgaged his house twice in the time from 12 to 18. From about 16 to 20, 21. Remortgaged his house twice, bankrolled him. And well, the rest is history. But what did that do? It opened doors. Unfortunately, money does open doors. But Cole was able to take him to America, expose him to the American market, expose him to American golf, upped his level of intensity of training, got him in gym, psych, fitness. Yeah, he did everything that I want to do now as a coach for my juniors. So yes, I've taken life experiences that happened to me that he was getting that I wasn't. I can hit a golf ball great, sure. I can't shoot the scores he can. But I'm now giving the kids the opportunities, the backing, the support that I didn't get at that 12 to 16 to 17 mark.
Well, that's a good question. I'll ask you in this first. There's the debate. There's always this debate: nurture versus nature. Where are you in that? You know, let's be honest. No one's 100% one way or 100% the other way. But are you lean towards the nurture side of it or the nature side of it?
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely both, isn't it? You look at it, right? So, ask the question why. In the female game, Korean golfers started to dominate the game, and why they couldn't do that in the men's game, and that would tell you something about nurturing over nature, I think. And we see it, we've heard it in table tennis and those kind of stories as well. But I think when you're looking at the number of players who are dreaming of being the next Tiger or the next Rory, in the men's game particularly, then you've got to have some inherent natural ability there in order to be able to take it forward, to be a really elite golfer. So yeah,
you've got to have an X factor, don't you, Ian? You've got to have that X factor.
Of
how
course.
how do you support that X factor though? And look, there's I could have gone through a list. Yeah, we will talk about the Junior Ryder Cup and the Junior Solheim Cup. I've been through the list of the players who played in that, and there are some players who have gone on. So for example, the world men's rankings at the moment, 3 of the top 5 played in the Junior Ryder Cup. But if you look at the list of players who played in that Junior Ryder Cup, there were some players there, with the greatest respect, I've never heard of, and they probably don't even play golf anymore.
No.
So what was it which they didn't have, and why didn't that happen? And there's the question. If you can spot that, then you're a genius.
Talent, drive, enthusiasm,
and everybody's different. I mean, and Aaron makes a great point with coaching. You look at Rory; he had a great coach. He had Michael Bannon, who knew when to tinker with the swing, when to leave him alone. He still has Michael Bannon. Rory went off and tried some other things for a little while, but he came back to Michael, and Michael's still at the core of it with him. And so I think, but then you have others. Again, we were talking the real elite players here. Martin Keimer tried to change, got to world number 1, tried to change his swing so that he could draw it as well as fade it, and lost his way, right? So, I think it's, you got great examples in the amateur game. Gordon Sherry, where did he go as a pro? So, I don't know. I think we're dealing with human beings, hey? So, as Aaron rightly said, you find out about the person first, and then the golfer second.
Yeah.
Okay, when you find out, when you meet someone, Aaron, who you see talent, you see someone who has the potential to become something very, very good, but there are parts of that personality whereby you go, that's not going to help you. What you're doing isn't going to help you. How do you coach that out of them? Or not? I don't know. You tell me. So I'll give an example. I'll give you an example of something I spotted. A story. I won't name names for obvious reasons, but there was a county championship which was taking place that I was aware of, and it was being played at a golf course which wasn't one of the better golf courses in the county. And the best player in the county, exceptionally good player, played a practice around there on the Friday, and on social media that evening started slagging off the golf course, saying how bad the greens were. I turned up at the golf course the following morning, and one of the main organisers came up to me and said, "Have you seen the score of?" And I fully expected it to be a bad score, and it was. After 9 holes, he was something like 6 over par, just based on what I'd seen the night before. That's my only evidence that I had. If it had turned around to, I hadn't seen that on social media the night before, and he said, well, guess what score this person's got? I'd have gone, what is he, 5 or 6 under? But just based on what happened the previous night, I thought that's someone who
defeated already.
Yes,
defeated his own mind.
That's it. And that's something whereby I wanted to turn around to his coach and go, this is something you need to look at. That person has gone on to became a very, very good amateur golfer. And as far as I can see, has turned professional and is not doing anything, which makes me think that it might not have happened for him.
So potentially you're looking at the attitude of the player and how the player is looking for excuses.
Yeah.
Outside of themselves making the mistakes. So yeah, look, it is hard. It's about maturity, and coming from my this is where I sometimes hit the wrong. I hit a nerve with people. Being Aussie, I'm a bit blunt. So unfortunately, I don't take it. I just to put it on the tray and just like sugarcoat it. I give it to them straight and say, right, pull your finger out. What do you think you're doing? If you're that good, go off and turn pro and go put your money where your mouth is. Kind of shuts them out pretty quickly. But I pretty much tell them how it is. And I haven't really come across a parent that's gone, hey, that's a bit out of order. They've kind of gone, hey, thanks for that, high five. Because I think it needs to come from an outside source that the parent's thinking exactly everything that I'm saying, but they know that the kid won't listen to their parent. They won't listen. Whereas if their coach or someone outside of their family is saying, hey, pull your head in, what you've said, what was the need of going to social media? Because social media is just literally you're looking for attention, which then puts bad attention on you. You then lob up the next morning and you've put yourself in that bad attention already because everyone's seen it. So you lob up and everyone's looking at you sideways. Doesn't put you then in a great mindset, because then you're thinking, I'm this good and this is crap. Well, you've kind of defeated yourself before you've even put the tee into the ground the first hole. So my then response to that kid, say for instance, if that came back to me, was pull your head in. These golf courses are doing everything they can to do that.
Just on that point,
yeah,
that in that scenario that I just told you about, okay, it's one where I'm aware of. But in that scenario, would you wait for them to fail and then go, look, see what happened? See what A led to B? And if you hadn't done that, it probably wouldn't have led to that.
You would definitely bring that up. Yeah, that would definitely be a contributing factor. But you've kind of got to let them know that they're not bigger than the game. They're not bigger than the game of golf. They're not bigger than a golf club. They aren't on the top pedestal. It's a harsh reality, but it's the harsh truth. It's a harsh truth that I give my kids and go, yeah, you'll never beat the game. You can beat the course, but you'll never beat the game.
And have you experienced, I know that's an experience from me in there, but have you experienced or heard of those types of stories with players who played at very, very high level? So for example, in the Junior Ryder Cup or things like that, whereby they've got to that level when you've seen those types of things and thought, look, you're good, but unless something changes here, you're just not gonna fulfill your potential.
Yeah, undoubtedly. You see the kids who've got that little bit of extra mental strength, even at that stage. I think, but I think again, they're different. So if you look at the elite game, you look at someone like Tyrrell Hatton, who almost he plays better when he's angry. Eh? Yeah. Do you want to take that out of Tyrrell? He might annoy quite a lot of people, but do you want to take it out of him? He's been very successful doing it. Someone like John Rahm would have been very fiery and had to calm himself down somewhat to be a better player. And I think has done that most of the time. And then you've got others like Scotty who just appear like, they can stay on a level and keep going throughout. So again, but absolutely, if they're doing things that are out of order, that's the earlier you can catch them and rectify that. That's got to be that's got to be a good thing.
And what about, we'll talk about coaching as well. What about coaching? Because we've all heard the saying, this could happen, this could be in any sport, that they're the let's pick on football, for example. You always hear the saying, he always goes out for extra training. He's always the last one off the training field or whatever, and in golf, I remember VJ was always the one who was the last one to leave the reins
Bryson,
at the end of the day.
Like Bryson now.
Yeah, exactly. But equally so is that someone like Colin Montgomery would barely hit 10 shots on the range before, and he had a pretty good career.
Yeah.
So therefore, as a junior, how do you kind of like get that balance between, look, you need to practice, you need to learn how to do but equally so is that perhaps you don't need to practice quite as much as you are.
Yeah.
So I set drills. I just set drills. So I've on my range here at the golf club, I've got top tracers on my range. So what I'm able to do is that I've been able to get myself on as a top tracer coach, which then gives me access to a platform. So when the kids log into their accounts on the top tracers, I can set assignments for them. So mainly about yardages, about ball flights, not necessarily about their swing, but putting them in situations where, right, I need you to hit between 46 and 54 yards, but I need you to carry it that distance. I need 5 shots, and you've only got 10 shots to hit. 10 shots, you have to get 5 in. If you don't do it, well, then you fail it, you got to do it again. So I kind of make those assignments, which then limits the amount of worry of swing thoughts and swing techniques to purely when they're with me. So if I'm working on technique with them and then I give them technique drills, fine, different kettle of fish. But if I want them to continue practicing, but relax the practicing off, but just concentrate on dialing in yardages and get them to hit shots at greens on the top tracer screens, that's how I do it, to keep their swing moving and rolling. And then when they need to worry about their swing and swing technique, that's when I go, right, this is what I need to come down at least once or twice, hit 5 shots with this club, 5 shots with this club, try and get this ball flight, work on this shot. And that's when they can start thinking about their swing.
Yeah. And you as a parent, Ian, is that the type of thing that you're doing with John T?
Yeah. No, not really. Not at this point. If he wants to, if he wants to do it, then go and do it. I think there's obviously a little bit more technology involved, and going to the range is a lot more fun now with top tracer or what have you than it used to be on a cold winter's night. To get them out there. But no, not really. Just a little bit of an anecdote here that because I touched upon John Rahm earlier, and you then compared Bryson with Colin Montgomery, and this it's all about personalization, I think, and understanding the human being. Because I had the privilege of listening to John Rahm's first coach, Eduardo Celes, a couple of years ago at one of our conferences, and he said when John had huge amounts of talent, right? And he was taken to him. So when he first saw him, he said the first thing he did was John was wanting to show him his long drive. And he said, no, we're not. All I want to do today is chip and putt. I just want to see you chip and putt. John's gone back to his mum at the end of the first session and said, I'm not seeing this idiot again. He says he hasn't even seen me swing a golf club. He's just all we've done is chipping and putting. So anyway, the next time, he goes out, and he said John Rahm had a complete overswing that went right across the line, which is obviously the complete opposite of what he's got now. But he has
John Rahm with an overswing.
Yeah, exactly. And he has and right across the line. And he said it was
wow.
But he would hit a lot of balls left, and he would be wild. And he looked at his body, and obviously it's well documented the problems John has with his foot, and his body shape, etc. And just said, look, John, you're not going to get any consistency with this, and you're under pressure, you're hitting it left or whatever else. So, and changed his swing completely, which is the complete opposite of probably what Michael Bannon had to do with Rory. But but shortened his swing, got him under control. Actually, just had him swinging the club back to there and hitting it hard, which is kind of where he's got to now. But I thought that was really interesting because he looked at him, one, as a person, two, as his body and his physical limitations that were going to get in the way of being able to reproduce a good golf swing. And what you say there, Aaron, is you're taking away I shoot 65 on a good day, but I shoot 85 on a bad day. He's managed to get him a really repeatable swing at that stage.
Yeah. That's incredible. I never knew that about John Rahm. Never knew he had an overswing.
I was very privileged to spend an hour listening to Eduardo. And
wow.
Yeah.
Ian. Sorry, Steve. See, I feel so inadequate now. You brought on a guest who's just like the bee's knees of knowing everybody in the industry. Makes me look like a fool.
No, Aaron. The last thing I can do is teach a junior, and John T will testify to that. So yeah.
Right, Aaron. I know you're going to need to shoot off pretty soon and everything like that.
Yep.
But just a final point there is some of the things we've discussed. We're going to go in a lot more detail with Ian about some of particularly the Junior Ryder Cup and things like that. But
sure.
But if you've got a junior or a golf club or another professional listening and they need a little bit of advice on, they've got someone in their club who they think might be good. They think could become, has the potential, that's the word, potential to become very good. What would your advice be to them then?
Look, I say this, and Ian might back me up here, but I would say, if you're unsure, then ask for help, ask for advice on a path. If you're unsure, I mean, God, and I work alongside my boss Peter Rain, and and I always ask him questions. Oh, I've got this kid. I'm showing him videos of these kids and going, what am I missing? Am I missing something here? I think this, and this. And he goes, oh, what about that? I was like, oh, of course. Didn't see that. Thanks, boss. And and I'll pick it up next week. But if I think if clubs have got kids and juniors that are obviously making waves at their own golf club, that want to be around there, they're kicking goals, they're getting their handicap down and all that stuff. Try and give them access to opportunities. Make contact with county or other pros or other golf clubs. Going, hey, have you got any junior events that my junior can play? Or have you got anything set up there that not to steal, not to poach, but purely to, hey, you want to come and play? Can they come and play in a comp at your golf course? And just so I can get them some more experience in a competition. But then with kids, they've never been met before. Make new friends, networking. Like it's that kind of, I'm always inviting kids down from golf clubs around the whole area saying, hey, if you want to come, ever want to come to Blackwell, I've got heaps of junior comps. All right, you can't win the trophies because you're not a member, but hey, great for your handicap. You're more than welcome. But yeah, I think communication, is a massive key, which in England, I don't think's done enough to give more kids an opportunity to expand knowledge, expand their horizons of golf courses, expand their experience of golf courses from links to parkland to different competitions up the coast, up to down, up to south, down to south, up to north, go up to Scotland, go across to the west, go to Wales. And I had a few kids go up and play comps in Scotland. I had kids who went out to Ireland. I had kids that went down to Wales to play competitions. I'm always a massive advocate. I'm always saying, hey, guys, if you need help in finding places, let me know where you're going, and I'll try and reach out to a few people and go, hey, have you got any comps going? Any junior comps going? I've got these teenagers coming down. Can they play? That's what I would. Yeah. The more opportunities, the better they get. The more they learn, but they learn about themselves on golf courses they don't know. They don't just sit on the same golf course and hit the same shots on the same holes that they know. Oh, if I hit a bad tee shot here, doesn't matter. I know where it's going. Whereas they go to a golf course they've never played before, they've got no idea where they're going. Their head is like on high end all the time because they don't know where to go. So they're like going trying to calculate and do that analysis of, I need to hit it here. Where do I hit there? Do I land it here? Right. Do I need to go here? Right. What this putt's going to just uphill? Oh, there's trees. Oh, there's no trees. These bunkers. Never played these bunkers before.
Right, now I've met your wife, Aaron, and I know that I'm going to get into trouble if I don't let you go. So I'm going to have to let you go, though. There will be another podcast with Aaron in a month or so. Ian might well like to come on the next one, which we'll do. I'll explain a bit more later.
Ian,
well, Steve, you haven't met my wife, and you're not letting me go.
Okay, now you're going to have to stay with me, Ian.
So many questions for Ian, Steve. I have so many questions. They need to sit down and have like a 5-hour lunch with him.
Aaron, I would be delighted to do that. So let's follow up afterwards. Yeah,
definitely, mate. Look forward to it.
All right, see you soon, Aaron. Right, Ian. So just actually expanding on the very last point which Aaron mentioned there, and that's the communication between pros and the things that they can learn from each other. You've obviously worked in lots of different countries. Have you seen anything different between how different countries develop the better players to how they do in the UK?
Yes, but I think the basis of a good pro is, as Aaron said, is communication, and obviously that share. Then they're not always great at sharing that knowledge, but I think Aaron made a really good point there. That look, if you don't know, don't be afraid to say you don't know, and go and seek that help somewhere, because there's great pros and great coaches in all of the countries, but there is a different approach from country to country, and I think part of that probably reflects culture as well. If you look at it, you look at the kind of the Spaniards who've been successful, who probably in many cases didn't have what you would deem a classic golf swing. The famous phrase, I suppose, the Spanish hands around the greens, and came from Seve and Alathabel, etc. So, they probably had a more kind of feel kind of way rather than a exclusive technique kind of way to coaching. And I think sometimes that can be the thing, that golf pros can get so weighed down by technique, and particularly now with technology, with TrackMan, you've got to know your TrackMan numbers and get the perfect TrackMan numbers, etc. So I think what you see is, in some cultures, they are far more technical, they're far more number driven when you look at, as I say, the data all around it, and in others it's much more, let's just go with a bit of a feel around it, and that's their golf swing, and we'll work with that rather than trying to make it perfect, I suppose.
And also, you mentioned that the career they're doing fantastic work with female golfers, as opposed to particularly the success in the sense of the amount who've gone on to become exceptional players. I think it's quite similar as well in the Scandinavian countries as well. They have a very high rate and a very high number of ladies who play the game, let alone become very good players as well. Is that something whereby we can learn to try and develop more girls in the game in this country from countries like that?
Yeah, well, it's cultural and it's historical in a way, I suppose, in that when I've had these discussions in our conferences of how do we get more females, etc. And then like the Germans and the Swedes will go, well, we're already at 40% participation in girls and females. This is a British problem. It's not, and it's I suppose a lot of that's historical, and it is moving. But when you look at it from a PGA professional perspective, across our membership, you've probably got an average number of percentage of female pros against male pros is less than 10% in across those PGAs who are female coaches. So there's some great opportunities for female coaches to really move forward. But I suppose that reflects the supply line as probably the number of, in old terminology, category 1 golfers is obviously probably reflects that as well in the male game against the ladies game. So yeah, I think there's a lot we can learn culturally as to how they bring the girls through the game and keep them there, because I think that's one of the challenges. You get a lot of girls who get introduced to the game but leave possibly because of the golf club environment. I mean, I was lucky. I played the Junior Solheim Cup AMAM in Sweden, in Spain in 2023, and I played with a Swedish girl, Maya. I'll get her surname wrong, but Ortegren, her name.
Okay,
and she was +7, give or take. And didn't hit the ball I probably hit the ball the same distance as me, so she did okay, but just didn't miss a shot. It was. And she was just playing for fun that day in the AMAM. But that's how good they are at who are playing in the Junior Ryder Cups and Junior Solheim Cups. But yeah, but they've got a much bigger number to draw upon in the
actually just on that point there is the fact that it is noticeable with the Junior Ryder Cup and perhaps in particular the Junior Solheim Cup is that I think the last Junior Solheim Cup didn't have a single British player in the entire team. I think I'm right in thinking that, which is that a criticism of what's happening in the UK or a compliment to what's happening in Europe?
Bit of both, but also a little bit historically in some of them, the kind of qualification system as well. In that, I guess the players on the continent will move and play their national amateur championships and move around far more. Where possibly part of the problem. Well, it's not the problem, but there's so many opportunities to play here in the UK that our players don't go onto the continent and play different national opens quite as much, so they don't get spotted as much by those involved in the European Golf Association, for example. But I think it reflects the strength of the players on the continent. I mean, interestingly, this time round in the Junior Ryder Cup in a couple of weeks, we've got 6 French players. Half the team is French. And when I talk to the French Federation, they say the challenge we have in France is we produce a lot of really, really good players, and we've struggled to really produce great players, major champions, etc. And again, they don't know why. You look at somebody who did play Junior Ryder Cup and Ryder Cup, Victor Dubuisson, great talent, amazing talent. Probably didn't want it enough, and now really isn't playing very much at all. But again, it shows the strength of golf in France that they've got 6 Junior Ryder Cup players.
Let's talk about the Junior Ryder Cup then, and just briefly then explain what your role was, or is it still now in that competition?
Well, I've been attending it since 2012. I joined the board of Ryder Cup Europe in 2012, and I always kind of put my hand up to say I'd like to be the official at the Junior Ryder Cup, because it's just a great experience. You get to see the players of the future, and you get to be really in that really kind of close environment. And it's fantastic. And I think the last time, for the first time, we had an ex-player as our captain in Stephen Gallagher, and we won. And Europe hadn't had a great success rate in the Junior Ryder Cup at all. So my role actually in the Junior Ryder Cup is go along, be an official, be around, cheer a bit, make an occasional speech, and support them in any way you can. And I really got to know Stephen very well at the last match, and he said he just absolutely loved it, and he's doing it again this time. But I think it was a great step forward for the event to have a player who had played in a Ryder Cup, who they really looked up to, and could share his experiences with that team, and he was successful. But he would put it down as one of his proudest moments as well, which was great.
Well, I'm pleased to say we did actually. Stephen Gallagher has been on the podcast. We did an interview with him before the Junior Ryder Cup. We spoke to him about his foundation as well, and what he's done for junior golf as well. So that's kind of like twofold in the sense that you've got a player there or a coach who played at a very, very high level, still plays at a very high level, but also someone who can relate to them as well. And how important is that to have someone who they can look up to and go, I take on board what he's, but also can come, for want of a better phrase, come down to a juniors level in the sense of speak the same language as them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It can't just be an honorary position. And that was the thing with Stephen. He put himself right into the role. He attended the qualifiers in advance, so he knew the players. He introduced himself. It wasn't just they came to the matches cold and then got oh look, there's Stephen X, there's a Ryder Cup player, and now we've got to play for him. He got to know them. He got to know the role, and he's very passionate about junior golf, and he's doing some great work, as you know, up in Scotland. And I think that's very important. So yeah, you're right. Just putting an ex-player in for the sake of putting an ex-player in isn't the right answer. And Stephen's perfect for it, and hopefully we'll find more Stephens in the future.
Right, now you say you got involved from 2012 onwards, and I'll mention some of the players who played in the Ryder Cup before then, the Junior Ryder Cup before then. So back in '99, Hunter Mahan, Suzanne Pedersen, 2004, Tony Finau, Carlos Ajanda, Oliver Fisher, a guy called Rory McIlroy, you might have heard of. He played in it that year as well. The following Ryder Cup 2006 was Tony Finau and Carlos Ajanda again. 2008, Jordan Spieth, Lexi Thompson, Leona Maguire, Jordan Spieth and Justin Thompson in 2010, Alison Lee as well. And then when you joined 2012, there was a guy called Scotty Scheffler played in it. Now, do you remember watching him at that time and going, because and this is my point, which I want to come to, is the fact that, so that was 13 years ago.
Yeah, we're getting old.
When you looked at his swing then, did you go, that's a weird swing. You know, that's not going to make it a professional level. Or did you go, look, he's just brilliant, full stop? How much did you see, or do you remember him at that?
Yeah, no, it was funny actually, because I think at that time when you looked at the actual Ryder Cup team as well, and you compared the swings of the American players with the European players, this is one of the things that I was quite conscious of, was the fact that our players looked like more sound technically, and they had much more variety in their swings, and that's possible. I don't know whether that's coaching philosophy or how that came about. And as you rightly say, there's not many coaches out there who would have pre-Scotty, even now, would coach that golf swing. But I'm not sure that Scotty particularly stood out to me on that occasion at all. You know, I think what I was thinking at that time was we weren't strong enough in the ladies' side, in the girls' side, in order to be competitive. And I think that's shifted. That has definitely shifted over the last few matches. We've seen the, I would say, the female game in Europe's moved forward considerably, and the strength in depth in the female games moved forward considerably.
Just in that event, the 2012, Alison Lee and Bronte Law were both in the two teams that year as well.
And Bronte did amazing in 2019 at the Solheim Cup.
Absolutely, yeah. And then since then, 2014, Sam Burns, who's going to be playing in the Ryder Cup this year, and then in 2018, the Højgaards, both of the Højgaards played in it, and also one player, which I want to move on to a slightly different subject. One player who's been on the podcast, did an interview with her, was Emma Spitz. Now, it's fascinating talking to Emma for a couple of reasons. One was the fact that at a very young age, it might have been probably only 2 or 3 years before then, she was a tennis player, and she was a skier. She was multi-sports, and we alluded to this a little bit earlier in the sense of, you know, don't specialize at a very young age. But that's someone who, you know, could have gone either way. You know, and she said as much. She said, I could have gone that route. I could have gone the other. I think another one was Carla Gaynor as well. Carla Gaynor, who she was a very good tennis player as well, and she could have done something very similar as well. Is that something whereby you think that benefits them? Well, you mentioned earlier the thing it benefits them, but what specifically can they gain out of the different sports that they're involved with at that young age?
Well, I think at the young age, you are just learning to participate, compete, getting motor skills, getting mental skills, you know, et cetera. So, and I think Aaron made a very good point. And you look at some of the very successful young tennis players who've got burnt out so quickly and so young, that I think just to be so intense in one sport really, I mean, it works for some, and it's worked for Tiger and it worked for Rory, but you look at others. I mean, I think Sergio Garcia played in the first unofficial junior before it became an official junior match, and he was a very good footballer, and you know, chose golf and has done very well from it. So for me, there's probably a point now, and I don't know what the ideal age is. It was probably different again from person to person. There's a point where you've got to have a degree of specialization, obviously, because you know, people talk of the 10,000 hour rule to become an expert or whatever it is. You know, they've got to find that enough time to really ply your trade. But when I look at, you know, my 10-year-old now, if I was just making him play golf all the time, he wouldn't love the game, you know. And he loves going to play football. He loves going to play golf. He loves going to play other sports. I think it's really healthy. And I think the other thing is you get a more rounded individual, because, you know, it's an individual sport most of the time. They can become very, very selfish, arrogant people if you're not careful. So I think it's healthy from, again, the human perspective.
Right, now, people who've been watching this and listening to you, fascinated with the things you've been saying, would say that this guy's a good parent. This person knows how to look after his son and his daughters and all that type of thing. But I know that your son got injured playing a sport this year, so there is that part of it as well. Is that sport can, you go out there to get fit by playing sport, but there is that risk of injury as well. And at a young age, we did a podcast a couple of years ago where we talked about injuries, and there was a young lad who I'd met and know, and he'd broken his back at the age of 16 because his golf swing wasn't fit for his body. How wary as a parent do you have to be the fact that don't push them too much just in case they start, you mentioned the example there of tennis, burnout, but obviously injuries can crop up. I've been running lots of events this year whereby, I know I joke about your son, but there have been players who picked up injuries during the year and they've had to pull out of events. How wary as a parent do you have to be of that?
Yeah. Well, actually, my son, he fractured his ankle just playing in the playground, so it could happen anywhere. But I think you've got to be really wary of this. It's like any of us, and it's harder when you get older. But you've got to have the right amount of relaxation as well as exercise. Hey, so I don't particularly. I wouldn't say that it's something that I really overthink. My girls play, as I said before, field hockey. It's a dangerous sport. If they started going out there and worrying about injury, I don't think they'd be the hockey players that they are now. Because I think you've got to go in with that almost fearless attitude, haven't you? But I think that, it's probably something that we don't pay enough attention to. We actually had an interesting, we've just signed a really interesting partner. It's a Swedish company called Balance Golf. And they've been really interesting in that they have looked at thousands and thousands of different body types. And I think that's the interesting thing from a coaching perspective, to understand the limitations of each of our body types. I may have a long upper torso and a short lower, a short legs, or the other way around, or whatever. And how trying to force people to swing in one particular way, which their body may not allow them to do so in an effective manner. I think that's something which coaches really need to be aware of.
We mentioned earlier about nature versus nurture. Rory's I don't know the exact physics of his body, but it means he can swing the ball and hit the ball harder because his I think it's his spine or something like that, which can turn a little bit better than most, you see. The other point as well is I was going to make was, alluded to earlier about the fact that I knew Charley from when she was a very young age, is that they didn't put her in many competitions because they wanted to keep her fresh and eager to make sure that when she turned up at a competition, she was desperate to do well and desperate to go out there and play competitive golf. And they almost have to hold her back, and that can be used in a positive way, can't it? By stopping them playing in competitions because she wanted to. She wanted to play in everything.
Well, you used an example. My son was 6 weeks out with his ankle injury. And when he came back, he was desperate to go and play golf, and he's desperate to go and kick a football. And it's exactly that. A little break from it is obviously a really healthy thing. And when I look at the kids who literally just play football, and they're playing football 12 months a year, I'm not sure that's a healthy thing, because it was an enforced break, but he came back fresher, and he came back wanting to do it. He realized how much he'd missed it whilst he couldn't play. So that's the thing you talk about with Charley, probably. And as you say, there's so much exposure. In a summer holiday, we could have played a golf competition every day. And I sadly, I've got a job, so I can't take him everywhere. That's one thing. But again, it's balance in life, isn't it?
Also from my point of view, someone who organises junior events is that, and I'm working on the schedule for next year. So say, for example, I work for Warwickshire Golf Union, I organise their Junior Order of Merit. I specifically make sure, as much as I can, that if there's two junior opens in the week, they're on a Monday and a Thursday, or a Tuesday and a Friday. So therefore, they're not back to back. They're not, and if you have a 36-hole competition in perhaps the county championship, you don't have an event that week because they've got their 36 holes that week or whatever. And try not to do overkill. And it means I get a break, if nothing else, but also means that they get a little bit of a break as well. And that's something whereby I think that other clubs and we talked about communication with coaches. Aaron talking about communication between coaches. Clubs can work together and make sure that they don't have junior opens on consecutive days or things like that. I know you work with golf clubs. You work with Little Aston about. Is that a kind of conversations you've been having with other clubs?
Yeah, no, not to any great extent. And I think fitting things into calendars is tough enough for most of the golf clubs. But the interesting thing for me is my son this year's got onto the Staffordshire kind of pathway. Sorry, nothing against Warwickshire. He's actually a member of a club in Warwickshire as well, just that we happen to be little out and he's loved playing the Warwickshire stuff. But I've been impressed with the way that they've gone about that and the way that they've treated it. It's very spaced out in terms of the between the sessions. They focus on things which aren't technique, which I think is great because they've all got their own coaches. They don't need to be confused by it, and they focus on things like strategy and different types of shot making, the scoring clubs, etc. And I found it to be a really good experience. And sometimes these the counties and England golf get criticised and what have you, but I've seen the other side of it and seen that it's been a really positive experience, which has been encouraging. It's enthused me.
Right, just want to make one final point. Obviously, work as a sports journalist. As I'll show you this. I mean, I went on the internet and put in the next, and this is just one of them. This is just one of the articles you could find out there. Pick like I said, the next Lionel Messi, the next whatever kind of thing, and is that. It's easy. It's an easy headline. I fell into the trap of calling this podcast, finding the next Rory, the next Tiger, the next Charley kind of thing. But it is easy for a journalist to think that sells my paper, but it puts added pressure on, the junior, the golf club, the county, or whoever it is, and you as someone who works within the industry, how much time do you have to say, do you ever speak to the media and say, take a step back on occasion, don't build this person up to be the next big thing. Just let them develop. Do you feel as if we in the media need to take on a little bit more responsibility with that?
Yeah, but reality is you need a headline, hey? And we all know that. We all know that. But I think as I say, you made the point earlier, no one's ever going to be the next Tiger. No one was ever going to be the next Jack Nicklaus. No one's ever going to be the next Laura Davis or Annika Sorenstam. They're going to be their own person. Probably even 2-3 years ago, you wouldn't have. I mean, I would have challenged you, Steve, to predict Scotty's dominance in the game 2 or 3 years ago. We saw him break down at the 2023 Ryder Cup, having got beaten out in the country.
9-7, absolutely,
beaten out in the country. And at that point, he wasn't the outstanding player in the world of golf. So I think reality is, and we talked about Ian Poulter. I mean, he was playing off a handicap of 4 at whatever, 18, 19. So, it comes at very different stages. There's always the 1 or 2 who stand out. And you use the example of in 2018. I mean, that 2018 Junior Ryder Cup team had Rose Zhang was in there as well, who's obviously was an amateur phenom, if you want to use that phrase, and has gone on straight away to be a good professional. The Højgaard stood out. The one who stood out on the American team was Akshay Bhatia, and you could tell there that he was going to be something. He was confident, without being arrogant, but he was a kind of a leader in the American team. You could see it straight away, and you could tell he was good. So I think you can tell to an extent, but there's definitely a few who surprise you in there as well, isn't there?
Absolutely. Right. We would normally do the news at the end of the section, but because Aaron's not here, we'll do it. We'll do it in the next podcast, and we'll do a longer news section. But look, we've like I said, we've been talking about finding the next Tiger, finding the next Rory. I ask Aaron's advice there. You, as someone who works with golf foundations, golf countries, PGA, what advice would you give to anyone out there who and you're a parent as well, or the parents perhaps give some advice about what they should be doing when they find someone and they think this person has the potential to be very good. What advice would you give them?
I think there's the potential stage where it's right. Just try and recognize that. Be realistic, I think, is the key thing. There's thousands and thousands of plus golfers out there, plus handicap golfers. So keep it fun and don't have this expectation that they are going to be the next Rory or the next Tiger, too soon. Let them enjoy it. I think the other next phase is when they start to become really good, is then judging the right level of competition for them. We talked about that earlier, and exposing them to that next level. And I think then one of the absolute key, when we're talking the real elite game, one of the absolute key areas is when they turn pro. At that stage, they turn pro and they start competing. That's, in most cases, they've been very looked after by their golf union or their golf federation. If they've played nationally for their country, they've been in an environment where everything's been looked after for them, and then they turn pro. And in most cases, they're on their own. Perhaps the only people they've got in their team might be a coach, might be an agent, who may, they're not going to be looking after them in the same way as the golf unions and federations did. And I think that's been a real part of Swedish success, amongst others, where the federation and the PGA, to an extent, have invested in a futures fund, that they've given them some backing in that early phase of turning pro, which in most cases, when they're successful, they give it back, and they give their time back as much as they give their money back. But they're also kind of cared for in that really transition phase from those first year or two on tour can be really, really daunting. And we've seen some and we're seeing it more, that the kids come out of college and they're immediately successful. And then you see others like, Justin Rose, who had 17 missed cuts, and then he's had a pretty good career at the end of it. So it's that, but that phase is key.
And also someone who very much invested back in junior golf as well in later years as well. So
brilliant way, yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Right. So that wraps up then for this podcast. And I did mention the fact that you might be interested in the next one we're going to do, because we're going to do one on the rules of golf.
Yeah.
Because I think that's something whereby, well, it's vital, isn't it? It's something whereby juniors need to know the basic rules of golf. And we're going to touch as well. Well, it'll be a fun podcast, but we're going to touch as well on cheating as well, because it crops up in people come to me and say, this person's cheating like that. You see, it in my eyes, it's not everyone who makes the wrong rule is cheating. It just happens to be that they don't necessarily know that this rule or that rule or whatever you see. So I want to kind of like touch up on that and get basically get more information out there to not just the kids as well, but for the parents and golf clubs to be a bit more knowledgeable about the type of things that they're going to face when they're playing in competitions as well. But that's one to watch out for. I'm
a long way off the mark with that, Steve. I qualified as a rules official in 1997, and then I got promoted to go quickly from being a tournament director to a chief executive. And so sadly, I'd love to get back to it, because I loved my time as a rules official, but I'm a little out of date with some of my knowledge.
Well, the one that makes me laugh was the fact that when they changed the rules, was it 3-4 years ago, and they did it to try and simplify it, and the book got bigger. That's the bit that gets me. That's there you go. There's some logic there somewhere, but I couldn't quite understand.
You're exactly right, and I think it's something which is neglected. In terms of, the rules aren't always there to hurt you. There's many of the world's best players have utilized the rules in a positive way to help them through the years. So the earlier the kids can get an understanding of the rules, and from both sides, when they hurt you and when they can help you, the better.
Absolutely. Right, that's for the next podcast then. Thanks so much, Ian. Thanks so much for Aaron, and we shall see you very soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Cheers now. Good night.